But for so many men, we spend so much time and up in our heads that mode of being tends to justify itself more. And if I just get one more thing done, and if I just do some more thinking, I'll figure it out. If I'm not clear, then I'll just think more. And while there can be truth in that, oftentimes, if what I'm doing isn't working, then more of it isn't going to work any better. You're listening to the Everyday Legends podcast, the show that is dedicated to championing everyday men and supporting you in getting more from life, love, and the everyday. I'm your host, Mike Campbell, and the aim of this podcast is pretty simple: to support you in building rock-solid foundations, legendary integrity, and kick-ass relationships, with plenty of stories, a load of lessons, and a solid dose of some loving straight talk. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Everyday Legends podcast. I'm your host, Mike Campbell, and today I'm going to bring you a punchy episode, a solo episode, just myself, and this is what we are talking about: overwhelm. How do we navigate overwhelm? What the fuck is going on with overwhelm? Why do I feel overwhelmed? Navigating, like really understanding, making my way through, not being so fucking busy and overwhelmed. That there is a pretty common experience for a lot of guys in the world. I hear questions about all this kind of stuff all the time. The word that often comes along with overwhelm is busyness. Now, I'm reminded of that coming into this conversation here with you and me and my computer screen, because of some of the guys that have just recently started the Everyday Legends Academy. It's a fairly common occurrence when they come into the program. Not for everyone, but it can be fairly common for some guys. When they start, we have a whole week of orientation. So it's about getting everything figured out. Here's the thing. This is this piece. This is how calls work. This is all the stuff. And there's a bit in there because we want you to know, they want the guys to know all the pieces. And because I want to throw a bit of shit at the guys to see how they show up. Right? Often in this work, there's the thing that we're doing, let's say an exercise, and there's all the stuff around it that we can notice and pay attention to. So that's a little sneak behind the curtains as to one of the reasons why we also do that during that orientation week. Because we're about to fucking sprint for 6 months. And so I want to see what these men are made of. I want to see where they're at, what's going on, what shit comes up. You know, do they leave it all to the end of the week? Do they find excuses? You know, do they get on top of it and plan? Do they all of a sudden feel overwhelmed and then all their stories come up and they panic? There's no judgment, there's no right or wrong, but it's all information for us to understand. All right, this is how you operate. This is how you need to operate. This is what might work. This is what support you might need. But it is a common experience. And what I say to the guys is, at some point in the next 6 months, I can almost guarantee that everyone will experience overwhelm at some point. And there's a few pieces to that. One is because of the intensity of the work that we bring. I don't fuck around. This is not, simple little really low workload. I want the guys to have to lean in, prioritize themselves, plan, and give a shit. We're sprinting. Sprinting has an intensity to it, but there's no expectations that they get every piece of this done. I realize as I'm talking about this, I'm tangenting into talking about ELA, which I didn't mean to, but it is one of the common occurrences that we see for some guys across the start, but also often across the whole program, this idea of overwhelm. So let's explore overwhelm. Now, overwhelm can come about in many ways, shapes, and forms. I want to keep it fairly punchy on this and to say this. The general thing that's going on for us when it comes to overwhelm is that we are full. We feel that we've got too many things going on. Often for a lot of men, we've got too many things going on up in our head. Too many tasks, too many things going on, pressure, over-analysis, overthinking, right? Rumination, saying yes to a bunch of things that I can't yet kind of follow through on, and all these things backed up. We're full. And so really the first invitation for overwhelm is to be able to recognize it. Of course, that's the challenge for a lot of men, is that we're full mentally. So we've got so much going on in our head. We're kind of disconnected from our bodies a little bit. And so we actually can't connect to the experience that my nervous system is telling me I'm full. I need to stop, and I need to slow down, and I need to empty. That there is overwhelm in a fucking nutshell, by the way. Like, you can turn this off almost and go, okay, that's what I got to go and do. But let's explore it a little bit more. Stop, slow down, stop, and empty. That's really what is going on for overwhelm. But for so many men, we spend so much time and up in our heads that mode of being tends to justify itself more. Like, if I just get these tasks done, and if I just get one more thing done, if I just do some more thinking, I'll figure it out. If I'm not clear, then I'll just think more, think more, think more, think more, think more. And while there can be truth in that, oftentimes, if what I'm doing isn't working, then more of it isn't going to work any better, right? It needs some different approach. And that is really where the first piece with overwhelm and busyness comes in. Is busyness often leads to overwhelm. They sleep in the same bed. What we need to do is we've got to stop and simplify. So here is a question that I want you to take with you. And this can be a challenge, but we'll explore it a little bit. And feelings of overwhelm, when I recognize it, that's the first piece. And that's often a big piece of work for a lot of men to actually get to the point of being able to recognize, holy shit, I'm overwhelmed. And not just go into the mode of, I'll just do some more thinking, I'll just do some more action, I'll just finally do more, and that will clear more space, because doing more tends to add more. And that is to stop and then to simplify. And so the question is this: what is the next best thing I can do? What is the next best thing I can do? And so hopefully what you're hearing in that question is a few things. First of all, the next best thing. So it's asking you straight away to stop, to potentially gather all the things that we have as tasks and lists and all this kind of shit, and then list it down if you need to, whatever works for your system, and then prioritize. Now, this might sound like, oh, Mike, this is fucking basic. Cool. So why are so many men that come to me that I speak to fucking overwhelmed all the time? Overwhelm is a sign that I am not prioritizing my energy, my tasks, my time, and what is important to me. So stop. What's the next best thing? So I've got to prioritize. Then the word before that, next. So what that means is there might be something that's very important, but that can wait a day, a week, a month, a year, whatever it is. So what is the most time pertinent piece? And there's many things you can go in terms of finding, tools on time management and all this kind of stuff. But ultimately, time management is priority management. And this is really the quadrant that we're coming into first and foremost. What is the most time sensitive and the most important thing? Now, that might not be looking at your life, or let's say, your relationship or work, and going, it's this thing here. It might be the next best thing I can do is sit the fuck down and create some space to just sit. And in stillness comes clarity. That doesn't mean you'll instantly have clarity, but the shit that's playing out for you will come to the surface. And with that, you can do something. All right, I'm going to list all that shit down and start the process of getting it out of my head. So then I can prioritize even more. And so if you're someone who commonly experiences overwhelm, that might be the question to ask: what's the next best thing I can do? And the first answer already there for you is stop, simplify, get all the shit out of my head so that I can see it and start to organize it. What is the next best thing I can do? Now, in this, because we're often so up in our head, what it's inviting me to do is actually to get out of my head and to connect back into my body. Because often as men, what we've learned, and there's a lot of depth to this, and I'm going to skim through it really quickly because I've spoken it before and I can speak about it again. But we haven't necessarily learned the most effective emotional literacy, let's say. We're a bit stunted there. We haven't really learned to process, to navigate, to manage, and to really handle our emotions. And often that leads to some kind of discomfort. So what we try and do is there's an uncomfortable feeling there. I want to get into the thinking space. I want to outthink that thing. And of course, you can't outthink a feeling. It's called a feeling, not a thinking. So what the first invitation here after that point is to get out of my head where I'm stuck in all that mental overwhelm, and actually invite myself down into the clarity that comes with what is the feeling that I have. Yeah, one of those things might be something like overwhelm, but it also might be anxiety. It could be any number of things. And so get out of your head and into your body. Many ways you can do that. The simplest thing that I'm going to tell you right now is sit down, stand up, get to a different environment. If you're at work, move. If it's somewhere at home and it happens, move. And then get into feeling your body. So here's two really simple ways that you can do it. One, get your feet on the ground and actually feel the feet of your ground on the ground. If they're in shoes, if they're not in shoes, like the feeling of your feet on the surface of the ground, or the feeling of your feet in your shoes. Start to get the sensation of the clothing on your body, and then connect into your breath. Nice big long breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, and just focus purely on the breath in and out. Feel the stomach rise and fall, or move it in and out. And with that, focusing on the breath, your head will come up, the thinking will come up again. Oh, cool, cool, cool. That's right. Go back to the breath, back to the breath, back to the breath. In that, you can then start to ask yourself, what is the feeling that I have? What is the emotion that I have? Not the stories and the thinking that will come back in. That's where your thoughts are. What's the feeling? In there, there might be a few clues as to what I'm experiencing, perhaps what I'm avoiding, right? The feeling that I'm avoiding by doing all this busyness and being overwhelmed, but also what might be at the heart of the overwhelm. The next thing is to get out of your head. It might sound like the same thing, so I'll say those two sentences again and emphasize them. The first one, get out of your head, and this one, get out of your head. And so what I mean by that is often we don't have the sight to see everything that's going on, how we're overwhelmed, what we're missing, what we can't see. We're so narrow focused in our shit that we can't see everything else around it. And so the invitation there is to get out of your head and bring in a different head, bring in different eyes, ears, perspectives, different way of seeing what is going on. The simplest way often to see things differently is to bring in new eyes. Bring in new eyes. So overwhelm, stop, or slow down at the very least, stop. Simplify. Simplify by removing everything and then asking myself, what is the next best thing I can do? Now, in the overwhelm, what we often find for so many guys is that what is paired with overwhelm, right? All this stuff, the busyness, the lack of clarity, the confusion, the panic, the fear, the anxiety is, right? So you would think that that is, you could think that that is a mode that lends itself to like, okay, I've got to be productive and do all the things. But often what is coming along in the coattails of that overwhelm for so many men is procrastination. So here I am procrastinating, knowing that I've got a bunch of things to do, and all the pressure and the anxiety and all that shit adds up. The more I procrastinate and not do the things that I know I need to do. And so I've spoken about this in the past, but there's nuance and there's depth to this, but to simplify it very, very quickly, procrastination really is about a lack of clarity. So I'm either not clear on what I need to do and why to do it, right? So I don't have the real buy-in and meaning, or I'm not clear on why I'm not doing it, on what I'm avoiding by doing the procrastinating. And that could be any number of things, of course, exercising, work, playing on, my phone, social media distractions, doom scrolling. Like it doesn't matter what the fuck it is. Fill in the blanks. Healthy, unhealthy. There's many ways in which we procrastinate, in which we avoid things that we need to do, want to do, or know that we need to do. Clarity is the point. As with earlier with overwhelm, the first thing is to simplify and to ask myself, what is the next best thing? That is a clarity exercise. And so the thing with procrastination is to first notice it, be able to challenge it and go, oh, I'm in the state of procrastination. So I'm up in my head again, but what I need to do is I need to sit in, first of all, get out of my head, get into my body, what am I feeling? And then start to ask myself questions from a place of more clarity to create even more clarity. And that is, what am I avoiding and why? When it comes to that thing that I'm avoiding or that I'm not doing, why do it? Why lean into it? Why accomplish it? Why complete it? Whatever is relevant. In that question, what you're actually inviting yourself into is the clarity of the buy-in. What meaning does that thing have to you? What is the purpose of it? And you might find that there's none or very little, or there's nothing that you can really connect to. That's probably why you are procrastinating with it. But what that is asking us to be is deeply honest with ourselves. Until we can be brutally frank and honest with ourselves, we will keep choosing the things, the avoidance tactics and habits and patterns, the procrastination pieces, and then justify a sound reason, right? Because we can justify the crap out of things. I can just do this for now because fill in the fucking blank. And so here is a question to ask yourself when it comes to overwhelm and procrastination, and that is this: what is the benefit right now? The benefit that I am gaining from being overwhelmed or from being in procrastination, right? For being busy all the time. What is the benefit? Now, the simple answer, and you can use this question, what is the benefit, and fill in the blank, in many other places. What is the benefit of me sabotaging relationships when they start getting good? What is the benefit of me avoiding conflict, in relationship with my partner, sweeping things under the rug, never having the tough conversations, and the let's call it untrained mind? Maybe that's not it. But the often very surface level initial answer to something like that is none. There is no benefit. It's frustrating. I don't know why I do it. There's no benefit. It's costing me. There's consequences. But there's always some form of benefit. Now, the benefit that we are speaking to, we might have to dig a little bit deeper. The benefit of me avoiding conflict and tough conversations in my relationship, let's say, might be something like because I'm terrified of rejection, or I'm terrified of getting it wrong or not being in the right, and then feeling like an idiot, or feeling like I'm not good enough, or that I'm not smart enough for my partner, or that she's not going to like me, or I'm terrified that she might reject me. And so the benefit is that I don't need to put myself in that situation. I can avoid those things, right? What is the benefit of me being overwhelmed? What is the benefit of me procrastinating? And in those questions, we might come up with a big variety and often maybe very challenging and confronting answers. And so you might want to stop this now or at the end of this and sit the fuck down, because, by the way, do not, if you're one of these people, if you're one of these men who experiences this stuff, do not let this be a podcast that you listen to and you skip on and go to the next one. But sit the fuck down and explore this work so you can get clear on and get out of that place of overwhelm and procrastination. What is the benefit of me procrastinating? And what we might find is something like, well, if I need to do X and I'm not doing it and I'm fluffing around on my phone all the time, and then I get annoyed at myself, and then I beat myself up, and then I think, oh, I should have done it, and I spin in this cycle of being hard on myself, but then setting myself up to fail, and then be hard on myself and just fucking masturbate in that place. The benefit might be because I'm terrified of completing something. Because if I complete it, I no longer have excuses. If I complete it, then that thing could be judged, and I'm terrified of judgment. I'm just spitballing some ideas here. The benefit of me being overwhelmed might be because then I can't be held accountable to that thing that I said I would commit to. And I get to kind of hide behind overwhelm. You see how the real reason, the real benefit can be something like, oh shit, that's confronting. That invites me to be brutally honest with myself. Overwhelm, procrastination, busyness invite me to slow down, to stop, to simplify, always to simplify, and to bring clarity. And often, like many things in life and in this world of personal development, but let's just call it, I think what is more accurate, navigating life with more skill, with more ease, with more peace, and getting the most out of life and love every day. We can't do a lot of this stuff ourselves. Call in support, people who can see, who are perspective, who are perceptive, who won't just be yes men and will keep you honest. Not look for things to challenge you on, but see them and call them if they're there. There's many, many potential things that we can explore in terms of strategy around overwhelm. But here is something like so much of this work. Strategy isn't enough. Tell me that you want to get fit and healthy, and then tell me the strategy that you need. And everyone knows the fucking strategy. It is exercise regularly. It is eat well. Limit the amount of shit that you eat, right? Get plenty of rest. There's a shitload of nuance in amongst all of that. But that's 80%. So why the fuck don't people nail the 80%? Some people do, some people don't. And in there is the question, why don't they do it? We have to understand that the strategy isn't enough. So when it comes to overwhelm and procrastination, the strategies to stop and prevent and slow down, whilst very important and can be massively impactful, we will never get anywhere until we ask and curiously, deeply explore the answers to the question, why am I getting overwhelmed? Why am I choosing procrastination? Because you're choosing it. Why am I choosing to be busy? In there might hold some of the real foundational keys that we need to then build strategy around, then take action on, and face some uncomfortable shit that might have been stemming from our past, that might have been foundations for you for so fucking long that they got deep hooks buried, fucking hands around your ankles. Now, for a lot of men, what we might find, especially guys who tend towards being nice guys and are often overwhelmed and procrastinate and busy, is that we're saying yes to too many things. We struggle to say no. And when you're overcommitting, by its very definition, overcommitting, you are going to be under delivering. And so your yes starts to be meaningless. When you can't say no, your yes carries very little weight. It means nothing. If you're terrified of saying no, so you say yes to everything, so therefore you're overwhelmed. But those things aren't really meaningful to you because you took them on because you didn't want to say no, because you're terrified of pissing people off and people not liking you and people rejecting you and people judging you. So you won't apply yourself to those things because one, there's too many of them, and two, they're not that meaningful to you. There's obligation. There's often resentment in around those things. So you procrastinate and the cycle fucking continues. And we hide behind that piece of being overwhelmed and being busy. So here is the invitation. And that is to work on making your no give meaning to your yes. So exploring in this, why do I get overwhelmed? Seeing answers like, I'm terrified of saying no. And then leaning into saying no, setting some boundaries, teaching people to treat you in a different way. If we say yes to everything, we often project out there, damn those people for asking, damn those people for taking my energy. And we miss pointing the finger over here and going, damn me for never setting a boundary. Damn me for being so goddamn easy with my energy and my commitments and not showing people where my capacity ends, because that is on us. And so here's the other thing that will come into play for a lot of men around overwhelm and capacity and procrastination is that we don't have structure. We don't plan our time. We don't prioritize, back to the earlier point. And if I don't know the capacity that I have any kind of structure around my energy, if I continue to think, and here's really the crux of it, that I can be everything for everyone all the time, then my energy will be spread across everything. I have no boundaries with myself and therefore with others. And in the depths of this, I might find some clues to the relationship that I have with myself and how I feel about myself. And then I feel like I'm not good enough and I don't deserve to fucking choose my own time, or that I'm terrified of people rejecting me and not liking me. And so I just won't dictate my own time, make my own choices, and set the direction for my life, like a leaf in the wind, ready to be blown any which way. Often what is playing out for the man who is overwhelmed and keep choosing things like procrastination. But by definition, which I didn't share earlier, when I'm procrastinating, it means that I'm building up tasks. I'm putting things off. So I end up being overwhelmed in some capacity. So for the men who have taken on board, let me express a lot of compassion here. I understand it, been there, and I see it. We've often learned through our conditioning, family, culture, society, community, that we have to be this kind of like invincible Superman that is and needs to be everything for everybody all the time. Gentlemen, you cannot. You cannot. But until you address why you think you can, or perhaps why you are terrified of saying no and not overfilling your plate, you will continue to spin plates. You know, think of that image, or maybe you can get this image to here. Plate spinners. Maybe that was a thing in the day. Pretty sure I've seen it in like America's Got Talent or something. Spinning plates, spinning plates. The nature of that is that I need to keep moving to spin the plates. I can't see life around me because I'm focused on the plates, and then one wobbles, and then one wobbles, and then one wobbles. And of course, the moment I stop, those things all fall and break, and everything goes to shit. It comes crashing down, right? And this is a term that I hear in a lot of men. Juggling all the things, juggling all the things. We juggle all these things, but we're not fucking jugglers. And so we are destined to drop a ball or two, or all of them, when we're in that mode. The mind of the overwhelmed and constantly busy man justifies that one more thing, and I'll be able to relax. I'll be able to have peace. Just get this thing done. Just get this thing done. Busy, 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 busy. But here's the thing. The amount of men that I have spoken to and worked with that really at the heart of what they want is something like more time, more freedom with my time. And with that, just more space in my life and a sense of peace. That overwhelmingly common. And you know what is also overwhelmingly common? That those men, when time and space and peace come, they fill it. They fill it with things. So we keep choosing overwhelm and busyness and procrastinating from life when what we want most is those moments. So you must start carving out time. Not just to do the things and get clarity, but for yourself, to simply do nothing, to be. Because in those moments, you will quite likely have rushing towards you all of your shit. The thoughts, the feelings that are uncomfortable, the things that we might have been avoiding by being overwhelmed, by procrastinating, and then be invited into honesty and to facing those things. Because whilst they might be confronting, uncomfortable, holy shit, challenging, they are the key to doing something about them. It's the step to empowering yourself with what you need, the information, to then do something about, to then face. And I've often heard, and I've heard this, I remember a man in the Urban Legends Academy asked me one time, he's like, you know, I'm yes, 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 all these things, and cool, carving out the time. And what I'm finding is now that I have time. And so the question was, and it was adorable, and I laughed, which was potentially mean, but I was kind of laughing with the man who was stepping into being. And he said, what do I do with that time and space? And I said, life. You do life in those moments. So what that invites me back to on the prioritization question is, what is life about to you? What do you want for yourself? What is important to you? What do you value? What is meaningful? Where are you going with your life? And if you do not have clarity on those questions, we will keep choosing overwhelm and busyness and procrastination until something more meaningful comes along. You can see the thread here of simplification, prioritization, and clarity. So if you are listening to this, and this resonates for you, where are you overwhelmed? What are you not doing? Where are you procrastinating? What are you avoiding? Not what are the things that you do to avoid, like the phone, social media, whilst those things are important. They're symptoms and they're tools. We've got to get deeper. What are you not doing? What are you not experiencing? What are you not feeling? What will it take for you to simplify down to one thing next and then do that? And then one thing next and then do that? What do you have to let go of in order to do that? Is it a story? Is it a belief about yourself? Is it that life has to be hard, has to be difficult? I have to fight. I have to suffer. I have to be busy. I have to work really hard in order to allow myself rest. Do you have to let go of that? Can you allow that life can have ease? It doesn't have to be easy, but it can have more ease. And in that, as I just spoke, what do you want to do with your life? Not necessarily the big picture, let's say, like your career is, but the moments that we squeeze life into, that overwhelm usually stops or prevents me from experiencing, that I waste when I procrastinate. Not that we have to maximize every moment, but what do you want in your moments? because we need clarity there. And to allow yourself, this is often a clincher for a lot of men, to allow yourself to have those moments, to experience space, peace, connection, intimacy, play, fun, joy, whatever comes into the answer of that question, what is life about to you? You have to allow yourself to have, receive, and experience those things, or you will chase being everything to everyone and overwhelmed and busy and procrastinating and then frustrated with yourself, and in the cycle of being hard on yourself and beating yourself up and setting expectations and feeling obligations and feeling resentment, until we stop, slow down, bring some clarity, and do something with it. Now, this is a symptomatic piece, one that we work on deeply in the work of Everyday Legends Academy and the Development Academy. Those invitations are there for you. But if you want to start with something really, really simple, then right now, wherever you listen to this, go to the show notes and we will put a link and you can join the next rotation of a free 7-day challenge that I have. And it is called Create Massive Clarity Now. 7 days to create massive clarity in your life, in and around all of this stuff. And what you will find, I suggest, is that most of you who are like, oh, fuck, I'll go and do that, won't do it, because everything that we've just spoken about is playing out. So 2 things. Make a commitment to yourself. Do not look for the perfect time. Make it the perfect time by carving out time, prioritizing it, and then being fucking relentless with that intention. And so 2, share it with someone and someones who can hold you accountable. 7 days. You can commit to 7 days creating clarity. And it is a starting point to going deeper into this work, into yourself, and getting more from life, love, and everyday, and getting rid and past that story of overwhelm, of busyness, and procrastination. It's all sitting there waiting. So if you want to dive deep into this work and have me and my team on your corner, then check out the Everyday Legends Academy, the exploration process, and where you can find out more about it and where we can find out more about you to bring clarity for you. And if this work is for you, jump on that. If you want to dive into this free 7-day challenge, jump into that as well. I trust that you've got something from this. Please, as always, share this with the men in your life that you know struggle with overwhelm and busyness and procrastination. And then please do me a massive solid where you find these podcasts. Go and leave us a review, especially on Apple. If you're the first time here, it does a massive job of getting it in front of more men's eyes and ears that need this work. And if you've been here before and you haven't left me a review, please do so. I'd be very grateful for that. That's our show. See you soon.
You've been listening to the Everyday Legends podcast, the show that is dedicated to championing everyday men and supporting you in getting more from life, love, and the everyday. If this podcast has benefited you, if you enjoyed this, then my request, my invitation is to share this with a man that you think will also benefit from this and enjoy this. Remember, please, wherever you find your podcast, to like us, subscribe to us, click download first, leave us a review. All those things both make sure you get all the updates when they come in, and it supports us in getting this podcast in front of more everyday men that could use it. Until next time, I've been Mike Campbell. Remember to build that legendary integrity. And remember, everyday men, we thrive when we are championed, when we are supported, when we are appreciated and recognized for who we choose to be in the world. Here is my invitation to both show up and be that everyday legend, and to continue to champion the everyday men